special family, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm AutismMom, and on this channel we talk about autism and everything in between. Let's take a look at today's Fairy's reaction video regarding a new autism report that is very controversial that has came out. Let's take a look.
This right here might be the most controversial autism report of the last decade. It just came out the other day. Let's talk about it. This report talks about the multiple potential causes of autism with research to back all of it, and it really changes the medical explanation that we have of autism. What this report is essentially saying is that autism is more than just genetics, and this has been talked about a lot in certain circles over the last several years, but with all of this newfound attention coming to autism, more of this stuff is coming to light. Now, the purpose of sharing this isn't to point fingers or play the blame game or to fight with the medical community, but the purpose of this is to empower you guys with information so you're able to make your own informed decisions. Researchers are calling this a multifactorial model, so instead of just looking for one specific cause of autism, they're looking how all these different systems are essentially stacking on top of each other and just overwhelming a developing brain. If you look at this image here, this is what the researchers hypothesize all of the negative impacts to a developing brain are. I'm not going to sit here and break down all of these different topics, but I think it's so powerful that some of this stuff is coming to light because this is stuff that we hear about every single day in our clinic. This paper also looks at different components of the immunization schedule, obviously highly controversial, but it raises some good questions. If you're in the autism world, I highly recommend downloading and reading this paper. You could just Google the name of it right up here and it'll pop up. But the reality is, in this world, researchers, practitioners, everyone has their own bias in this topic. So I recommend downloading this, reading it, and coming up with your own informed decisions.
A landmark report from the McCullough Foundation has just been released. This report has over 300 peer-reviewed studies, and it's identifying that childhood vaccine schedule ballooning from 3 doses in 1986 to over 70 today as the dominant modifiable risk factor for autism spectrum disorders, which now affects 1 in 31 U.S. children. Breaking through decades of suppressed discourse, this report demands transparency and accountability in public health. I'm going to link it below. Read it when you have time and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are.
I'm honestly a little hesitant to even mention this because I kind of want to draw attention to it, but I have seen mention of it around the internet and I feel like it might gain steam, so let's dive in. You might start to hear news about a new autism study that links vaccines to autism and says that vaccines are one of the determinants. It's not a study, it's a self-published report from the McCullough Foundation. It's not peer-reviewed, and one of the interesting things that jumped out at me right away was the list of authors. Let's take a look. My goodness, who is this? It's our good old friend, Andy Wakefield. Now, if you don't know who this is, or you just need a quick refresher, Andrew Wakefield is largely responsible for the anti-vaccine movement. In 1998, he published a paper that claimed to show a connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. But over the years, there were multiple investigations done on this, and it turned out that he manipulated and falsified data. He failed to disclose conflicts of interest. For example, he was being paid by lawyers that were intending to sue vaccine manufacturers, and he didn't disclose that he himself had filed a patent for a measles vaccine. Aside from all of that, the study itself was also found to be unethical. He performed unnecessary procedures on the children in this study. Things like colonoscopies and lumbar punctures on developmentally delayed children where there really was no indication that those tests needed to be done. He also lied about the paper receiving ethics approval. In his paper, he claimed that the hospital's review board had given him the go-ahead, but that was later found to be untrue. He recruited the children for this study through anti-MMR campaigners, and allegedly at his son's birthday party, he even paid the children that attended £5 each for blood samples. So, as you probably know, the Lancet did eventually retract that paper. Andrew Wakefield had his medical license revoked, blah, blah, blah. And yet here he is, still contributing to and still trying to profit off of the anti-vaccine movement. And the other big name on this paper is Peter McCullough himself. This is his foundation that self-published this report. It's not been peer-reviewed. If you're not familiar with Peter McCullough, he was an internal medicine doctor and cardiologist. He became a little bit more widely known in the earlier days of the COVID-19 pandemic for making some kind of wild claims. For example, early in the pandemic, he recommended using hydroxychloroquine to treat mild cases, and then later on became really outspoken against the COVID vaccines. This all culminated eventually in the American Board of Internal Medicine revoking his board certification. In news that will probably shock no one, McCullough is listed as the Chief Science Officer for the Wellness Company, which is a company that sells, you guessed it, supplements, including one called Ultimate Spike Detox. So as I said, I don't really want to draw more attention to it than I have to, but I did want to point out that no, it's not a peer-reviewed study, and it comes from a very sus organization and has some very sus authors. Take from that what you want. Like and share for more like this.
This group of doctors published over 300 studies and found one of the main connections to autism was vaccines. And this is going to be controversial for a lot of people, and people are going to look at this in a couple different ways. But how people handle this news is important, and no one should be throwing this in the faces of anybody else saying, "I told you so," or anything like that. It's important that we recognize that people trusted, educated people that should be telling the truth. People believe this because they were lied to about it, and they were victims and are victims of the system, companies, Big Brother, name whatever you want to name it. But that means that we should treat them as such, and everybody should be treated as such.
Okay, let's summarize the McCullough report that looked at possible causes of autism in young children. It suggests that autism may come from a mix of genetics, environment, and medical factors like older parents, premature birth, toxins, immune issues during pregnancy, and early life exposures. The report claims that out of 136 studies reviewed, most showed some kind of possible connection between vaccines and their ingredients and autism-like symptoms, while a smaller number found no link. It says that those studies that showed no risk didn't always include completely unvaccinated kids for comparison. It also points to possible biological effects like inflammation and mitochondrial stress that could affect brain development in some children. In the end, the report calls for independent long-term studies to look at the entire vaccine schedule and its combined effects, saying that this could help to identify modifiable risk factors for autism and make future policies safer. Guys, this is huge, and I'm here for it.
The dangers of persistent mRNA vaccine-derived spike proteins. Individuals affected by serious risk and lingering health issues, particularly those related to mRNA vaccines, the presence of persistent spike proteins poses a significant threat. These proteins can lead to a variety of health complications, including inflammatory responses and potential long-term damage. The research efforts of Neo7 Bioscience and the McCullough Foundation offer a critical path forward by providing precise detection tools and therapeutic interventions to clear these harmful proteins from the body. This could lead to significant improvements in the health of individuals suffering from vaccine-related spike protein complications. Conclusion: a new path forward in mitigating vaccine-induced health risks. The development of high-definition RNA transcriptomics and precision peptides represents a breakthrough in detecting and addressing the risks posed by spike proteins, particularly those linked to mRNA vaccines. As more data emerges on the health impacts of these proteins, the collaboration between Neo7 Bioscience and the McCullough Foundation is providing much-needed solutions. By accurately detecting and effectively clearing spike proteins, these innovations have the potential to dramatically improve health outcomes for patients dealing with post-vaccine complications.
Hello, Canadian Physician here, and is vaccine safety monitoring an issue like McCullough claims? Let's have a look.
CDC and FDA, they didn't have any safety review. They didn't have an external critical event committee. They didn't have a data safety monitoring committee, and they didn't have a human ethics board assigned to the program.
Okay, so this is completely untrue again. The CDC and FDA definitely did a safety review and actually paused the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for 6 cases. They also did a safety review when a myocarditis signal came out in June of 2021. The Australian group also did a safety review on the AstraZeneca vaccine with clots. So did Health Canada in April, as well as the European Medicines Agency and the United Kingdom. So basically, he's taking something that wasn't a safety signal and accusing the regulatory agencies of not looking into it because he doesn't understand the monitoring system, which we'll get into in the next video. Then he claims there's no dedicated safety board. The United States has the ACIP, which has been monitoring vaccine safety since 1964. They also have the spontaneous reporting VAERS system. They have the more active vSafe program where they text people and ask them if they're having reactions. And they have 2 other programs which go through insurance claims to see if there's anything that could be related to the vaccine. Canada's had NACI since 1964, which monitors through both a spontaneous reporting from healthcare providers as well as a hospital active surveillance system. The United Kingdom has also had the Yellow Card scheme since 1964, which is monitored by the MHRA. The European Medicines Agency has the PRAC committee as well as user vigilance, and that's been around since 2012. And Australia's had this ATAGI committee since 1998. And I apologize to Australians if ATAGI is not the way you say it. All of these committees as well as monitoring systems have been around for decades watching vaccines for safety signals, and if anything have actually enhanced their surveillance of the COVID vaccines.
I took 2 last year, I took 1 this year, 270 million shots.
So you were fine receiving 3 vaccines that went through this safety monitoring system, but now it's suddenly not good enough for the COVID vaccines, huh?
We actually had in a sense, the fox guarding the chicken coop, in a sense.
So that would only be true if we allowed the drug companies to be the sole monitor of safety of their own vaccines. And before you claim they control the FDA and CDC, you actually have to provide evidence of that. Because if you make that claim without evidence, I can most certainly dismiss it without evidence. Also, Peter, can you tell me what the nefarious motive of the CDC and the FDA is? Do those jerks not want people to die from a pandemic virus? Let me know. Next, we'll talk about his death claims using VAERS data. I hope this helps.
Okay, now that we know something new about the McCullough Foundation report regarding autism, what is your 2 cents? I would like to see that in the comment section below. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.